Good evening, you're watching Breaking News. I'm Rishika Baru. After the tension following last week's communal clashes, 20 shops were demolished in Jahangirpuri within 2 hours this morning. This anti-encroachment drive was organized by the BJP-led MCD in the national capital after the Delhi BJP chief in the state, Adesh Gupta, wrote to the mayor asking him to identify illegal constructions by rioters and demolish them. Shortly after, bulldozers started razing shops and other structures. The Supreme Court stepped in very quickly, ordered a halt and called for an urgent hearing that's going to be taking place tomorrow. But 2 hours after the Supreme Court order, the demolition drive continued. NDTV's cameras have captured how the demolition drive continued despite the court orders. Not just did the demolition drive continue for 2 hours after the Supreme Court ordered the status quo, also, there are now questions on the legality of the demolition drive. The law very clearly says that show cause notices need to be issued to people before any such demolition action is initiated. The people on the ground who are now victims of this bulldozer action say they got no such notices. Some even said that they had all the papers to show that their shops or their homes were legal, but the authorities refused to even look at any papers. What's even more brazen is that the mayor of North Delhi, by his own admission, has said that no notices were given to these people. On the show tonight, we therefore ask, was the bulldozer action in the national capital therefore illegal? But first, let's get you a sense of what's happening at Ground Zero in Jahangirpuri, an area that has already been extremely tense following the communal clashes that took place on Hanuman Jayanti. What about those who've lost everything that they ever built? Let's go across to NDTV's Anjali Istiwal. Anjali, you've been at Jahangirpuri through the course of today, covering all the details and developments. I want to first begin by asking you, you've been speaking with several people who actually have lost everything today. And several of those people in earlier interviews have even come out and said that, look, we have the legal papers, we have the documents to show that our shop or our home is in fact legal. We have permission to be where we are, but yet nobody listened to us. What are these people saying?
Right, Rishika, it is quite unfortunate that some of these people, especially that one gentleman, Mr. Gupta, Ganesh Gupta, he owns a shop over here which has been in his family for 3 generations. His father was allotted that shop by the DDA and now he was running it, and his son also has joined him in the business. Now the issue is that I will not deny the fact that there are encroachments in this area, which generally happens all over Delhi, that if you are allotted, let's say, a 50 square meter plot and there is a naksha that they say, or the map that is passed by the MCD, you tend to build beyond that. And we have seen that happen all across Delhi, even in the poshest of areas in South Delhi. But what that those encroachments or those certain extensions that were built by Mr. Gupta, they were brought down today. And he was trying to emphasize the fact that this is a legal shop. There is nothing illegal about it. But the officials over here were not ready to listen. What you see behind me right now, I don't know, it's a little bit dark, but you can see that that particular kiosk, this used to be a juice center. This was also destroyed by the bulldozers, and now what is happening here is that the owners have brought in some scrap dealers to pick up the whatever they can salvage from here. So it's now what has happened is that the shop that used to be their main source of livelihood has now turned into scrap. I'm going to very quickly try and show you a couple of I wouldn't say hours back, just about an hour back. Mr. Owaisi was here, Asaduddin Owaisi, and he went and met some of the people who are being called the victims of this drive, and then we immediately saw this entire police force that you see over here rushing to stop the media from either going that side, and this entire area had been cordoned off from the beginning. Right after the demolition drive, when the coverage was at its peak, the police decided to cordon it off. In fact, this yellow tape that you see over here, this was put to stop the media from going any further. And right now also the media is not allowed to go inside. That is where the mosque is, and that is where that temple also is. And the main impact of this encroachment removal drive was on this road only. And that one lady that we've all been discussing, who was crying and who had a pawn shop and lost everything, her house is somewhere around here. Now, the residents have chosen to now step inside, shut their doors, not step out. When we were trying to speak to them, they were not very interested, because I could sense that there was a little bit of mistrust, a little bit of distrust, because they do not trust the media anymore. They're like, we've been talking to you since morning. What has happened? You've not been able to do anything about it. So I could understand that, but the sorrow, the feeling of loss of your livelihood was written all across their face. Rishika.
Well, unspeakable, isn't it, Anjali, for these people to have just lost everything in a jiffy. And, you know, when our team of reporters have been asking people about, kya aapko koi parchi aayi, koi chitti aayi, did you get any kind of notice? They say absolutely not. They had no idea that this was in fact coming their way. I also want to ask you, because it's very interesting that you talked about how, you know, the security was beefed up when Mr. Owaisi in fact arrived. In terms of, you know, opposition leaders, people have been tweeting, people have been giving bites, but there were actually only two leaders who were actually seen on the ground. Brinda Karat, very bravely seen earlier today with that court order in front of the bulldozer, trying to literally physically stop more homes from being demolished. And now Mr. Owaisi.
Right, and if you notice, what the Aam Aadmi Party leaders are doing is making videos and tweeting them. I saw these videos. I saw Atishi's video where she's talking about bulldozing the BJP headquarters, and then we heard certain statements from other Aam Aadmi Party leaders also about bulldozing BJP headquarters. This entire idea of bulldozing is, I think it's something so undemocratic, and to even mention it for another party's headquarters is also not, I would say, not the way to go about this. They are missing from here. They are not coming here and talking to the people who have lost their livelihood. The MLA from this place is from Aam Aadmi Party. And when I asked this question on live television on our Hindi channel to the Aam Aadmi person who was there, Mr. Gupta, his reply was, अगर हम यहाँ आ जाते तो कहते कि आग में घी डाल रहे हैं और भड़का रहे हैं. So, you know, this is quite convenient to say that you cannot step out. But we saw the same thing when Delhi riots had happened. Aam Aadmi Party leaders were missing.
Yes. Well, the safe distance that they are keeping from these issues is indeed suspect, something that we will question. And Anjali, like I said, we're also going to look at the legality of what happened. What does the law really say about demolition? And is the Delhi MCD drive actually in, you know, contravention of the law of the land? So we look at that question in great detail. But, you know, let's just look at some of those stories, case studies of people who have today lost literally everything that they have.
"43-year-old Sajid Saifi is trying to pick up the pieces of his life. He has had this electric goods shop at the Jahangirpuri Jama Masjid since 1985. In today's demolition drive, parts of it have been broken. Saifi earns about 30,000 rupees a month, is the sole breadwinner and has 4 kids.
2 मिनट का भी टाइम देते तो जो कीमती सामान था वो ले लेते. उसको तो बिल्कुल ऐसे तहस-नहस कर दिया, वो किसी काम का ही नहीं रहा. अभी प्रशासन से कोई उम्मीद नहीं है, हर दिन नए कानून आ रहे हैं. 16 तारीख से सब यहाँ पीछे डरे डरे रहते हैं. किसके बच्चे को उठा रहे हैं, किसी को बच्चे को वो ना लगा दे पत्थर के केस में.
40-year-old Jamila and her husband 45-year-old Hussain have been running their pawn shop for the last 20 years. They say they've lost everything now.
पहले से बोल देता तो हम इतना नुकसान जानबूझ के करवाते. 50,000 रुपए हम लोगों का मायने होता. अमीर लोगों का 50-60 हजार रुपए कोई कुछ नहीं है. एक दिन का खर्चा और हमारा सालों का खर्चा है.
38-year-old Ashu's bike repair shop has been here for 17 years, but now it's demolished. He says he was not even in the area on the day of the riots, but is paying the price.
2 बच्चे हैं, 12-13 हज़ार महीना हो जाता है जैसे तैसे। अब जो 3-4 दिन यहाँ पे देखभाल ही करनी पड़ेगी, नहीं तो सब उठा के ले जाएंगे कि इतना पैसा है नहीं जो हाथों हाथ शटर लगवा ले हम। गाड़ी वाड़ी सब तोड़ दिए, ये सब बुलडोजर मार के वो गाड़ी तोड़ दी है। बुलडोजर मार, ये ग्राहकों की गाड़ी है, लेकिन ग्राहक तो सबर नहीं करेगा, उन्हें तो काम करके देना पड़ेगा, अपनी जेब से पैसा लगा के उधार कर्जा करके करना पड़ेगा।
यहाँ पर जितनी दुकानें तोड़ी गई हैं, इनका आरोपियों से दंगे के कोई आपका कनेक्शन है या और दुकानदारों का?
किसी का कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है, और पहली बात तो मैं उस दिन यहाँ था ही नहीं बिल्कुल।
50-year-old Raman Jha's pan masala cart was demolished and all his stuff taken away by the demolition team. He earned barely 6,000 rupees a month.
दुकान को बुलडोजर से ऊपर से तोड़ के उसको चकनाचूर करके गाड़ी में ले गए भर के। मेरी पान की दुकान थी।
कब से चला रहे थे पान की दुकान?
34 साल के आसपास हो गए।
34 साल की दुकान हो गए।
पहले मंथली जाता था,
कैसा?
पहले थाना में जाता था, अब क्या करेंगे, देखते हैं कि अब यहाँ तो लगने देंगे कि नहीं देंगे, कहाँ जाएं, यही सोच के दिमाग आउट हो।
The politics over the Jahangirpuri clashes and the demolition will continue, but for those who've lost out on all their hard-earned money, life has come to a standstill. In New Delhi with camera person Sachin Gupta, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Joining us on Breaking Views, Sanjay Hegde, lawyer for petitioner and a senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Ranbir Singh Pathania, spokesperson of the BJP, and Akshay Marathe, spokesperson and joint secretary of the Aam Aadmi Party. Thank you all very much for being with us. Sanjay Hegde, I want to begin by asking you, the entire question on what really happens when a demolition drive is to happen. What are the prerequisites? What is the legal procedure that needs to be followed? Can you shed some light on what the law says?
Well, the law is very clear on it. The powers come from 343 of the Municipal Corporation Act. That section specifically requires the commissioner mind, who's a bureaucrat, not the mayor, not the president of the local BJP or anyone to decide that a structure is illegal. He has to issue a notice, say, please remove that encroachment. If that is not heard, then he has to pass a demolition order, giving reasons why something is illegal and why a demolition has been ordered. After that, there is a process for appeal. There is an appellate tribunal. In this case, it appears that there was no notice, there was no order of demolition, and just because the local president of the BJP asked for bulldozers to be brought in, the mayor writes a letter, the commissioner obliges, and the police oblige, and the bulldozer runs. The bulldozer continues to run despite the Chief Justice of India saying, let there be status quo, we will hear the matter tomorrow. I believe that the order was communicated immediately. All of you all carried it on the newspaper, on every channel, and yet the administrators were so power drunk that they said, no, let that order be communicated to us officially. The Chief Justice of India was hearing several matters. He had, it takes time before an order, a dictated order, is checked again and is signed by the court master concerned. So the Chief Justice had to be again told that the demolition is continuing.
Right.
And you required the Chief Justice to apply his judicial mind and tell the people, tell the officers that the Secretary General would call up the concerned officials and communicate the order. This was deliberate inaction on the part of the administration, and they have a lot to answer.
Does this amount to contempt?
That is for the court to decide. It will all be whether somebody files a contempt petition, whether they do not. But it speaks very badly of the administration's respect for the rule of law. They would much rather listen to the law of their rulers.
Right. Ranbir Singh Pathania, you want to respond to that? Because it really did appear that there was no respect for the rule of law. There was no respect for the Supreme Court orders, because the Delhi MCD seemed to be in some tearing hurry to run the bulldozers amok.
Certainly not. The learned speaker itself built a very, we could say, a cozy fairy detail by starting it. It appears. He himself used the word, it appears. I am of the view, though I'm not privy to the records of the Delhi Municipal Corporation, each and every law, it has been observed in letter as well as spirit. And so far as the communication of Honorable Supreme Court order, let's not pass a value judgment comment on it, though the Honorable Supreme Court is seized of the matter. The entire chain of the constitutionality and the legality of the entire process will be thrashed out and will come out. Anyhow, let me harp over to what the opposition parties are trying to build an ecosystem like that. Mr. Rahul Gandhi, it's an bulldozing of constitutional ethos. Mr. Manish Sisodia, they want to bulldoze the house of the Honorable Home Minister. Where come the Amit Shah or the Home Minister come into picture? This is a case between Delhi Municipal.
No, but I'm not talking about what the opposition has said. I'm very specifically asking you about the charge that the actions of the Delhi MCD were illegal. There were no notices that were served to people. These people were not even given a chance to show papers.
You see, madam,
the mayor says no notices are necessary.
They have challenged the entire process of issues of notices and the demolitions. They are under challenge in the Honorable Supreme Court of India. We have already witnessed two very high-profile cases. One is in Turkman's demolition case, which took as many as 30 or 35 years to deliver a judgment. 10,000 juggies and jompadis were bulldozed in one breath and 10 people killed with a firing on spot. There is a Supreme Court order on it. There's Olgo Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. There's again a Supreme Court order on it. Let's wait for the Honorable Supreme Court.
Well, we are going to wait. We are going to wait for what the Supreme Court has to say tomorrow, because this hearing is going to take place tomorrow, and one sincerely hopes that the Delhi MCD is also going to wait for what the Supreme Court has to say, and when the Supreme Court has to say something, they are going to listen and not delay further for another 2 hours, because our cameras have caught this. For 2 hours after the Supreme Court order, bulldozing demolition drive continued in Jahangirpuri. Akshay Marathe, many questions being asked on where was the Aam Aadmi Party today. Your MLA from Jahangirpuri has not even gone and met people. You're just, there are videos that appear to be sending very synchronized messages, lots of tweets, but where is the Aam Aadmi Party?
Rishika, I think it's important to understand the context in which all of this is happening today. This is not an isolated incident. There is a pattern to this. We are witnessing a time in our country where the BJP is engineering communal violence across the country, not just in Delhi. The BJP has turned itself into a party of goons and thugs. It is creating these kinds of incidents to spoil the environment in the country. And Aam Aadmi Party is saying categorically today that
I object to the decency of the language you are using, sir. Sorry to interrupt. Please be decent.
I didn't interrupt.
Please be decent.
I'm sorry.
Please don't use such language for the party. Please. My humble submission, sir.
Aam Aadmi Party is saying today that if bulldozer justice is the way forward to punish people for any kinds of, anti-social activities, then it is the BJP that is responsible for creating communal clashes. It is Home Minister Amit Shah who has engineered communal riots in Delhi in 2020 and in 2022 also. So we are saying first bulldoze their headquarters, first bulldoze their homes, and we'll see in 2 minutes all communal riots across the country.
No, but your language is also being questioned, because many say you're speaking the language of the ruling party.
That's it.
We are saying the BJP headquarters should be demolished, and you're saying that is the language of the BJP. I don't understand.
But this concept of bulldozing through things is something that the BJP is doing. So you're essentially speaking the very same language.
It's obvious that what we are trying to point out is the fact that the BJP is responsible for the communal violence in the country. They are the masterminds of the communal violence in the country.
Your choice of words is what is being questioned. Sanjay Hegde wanted to comment.
I was only saying that two bulldozers don't make one house right. So it's like this. Today the bulldozer is being used against whom they say they say are miscreants who throw stones. Tomorrow another party might come in and say we hate drunkards. Let's bulldoze their houses. The third day, another party might come in that we hate people who wear miniskirts. Let's bulldoze their houses. Where are we going with bulldozers? Is that the new India that we want to build? New India can't be built on bulldozers.
Akshay Marathe wants to come in, but let's get Ranveer Singh Pathania to respond to that. Respond to what Sanjay Hegde is saying. Is this the idea of new India, where you're just going to bulldoze your way through it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is in each and every municipality across the country, that routine encroachments are being removed by the concerned municipalities every now and then. But I'm questioning, what I'm trying to make out a case before you launch the channel, that what ecosystem, what environment, and what could say epithets the opposition parties are trying to attribute to it. Somebody casts as a Hindus and Muslims, somebody casts between the poor, between the haves and the have not. But it's a routine municipal corporation. It's
what is routine about bulldozing homes of people who were not given any notices in an area that is already so tense following the communal clashes? What, sir, is routine about it is something that I think everybody today has completely failed to understand. Akshay Marathe, I know you want to come in, but I also want you to answer on what the Aam Aadmi Party today has said by bringing in Rohingyas into this debate, by bringing in Bangladeshi Muslims into this debate. I mean, what has that got to do with anything?
That's it.
Rishika, I want to put it on record today that the question of Rohingyas and Bangladeshis was raised by the BJP in the letter that it wrote to the mayor of MCD, that these are Bangladeshi and Rohingya communities that are causing riots in the country. All that we have asked the BJP is that for 8 years, they have been responsible for border security. They have been responsible for internal security. We are saying that if there are Rohingya settlements and illegal immigration happening in the country, then who is responsible for that? Who has settled these illegal immigrants in the country, if not the BJP? Is the BJP today admitting that it is an incompetent and a government that is not able to protect the citizens of India? That is the point that we are trying to raise today. So we are saying, look around the country, wherever the BJP has settled the illegal immigrants, that's where the BJP wants to foment trouble. We are making a very serious allegation that it is the BJP's conspiracy and plan to ensure and engineer riots in all the places where the BJP has settled illegal immigrants. And this is not something new. We have seen these reports over the past few years. In the last 8 years, we have seen the number of illegal immigrants coming into the country has risen, and the BJP only wants to play politics over it. They don't want to solve this problem because their motive is to engineer riots.
I have just 1 minute left, and I want to go across to Sanjay Hegde because it's an important day, Sanjay Hegde, in the Supreme Court tomorrow. The MCD mayor of North Delhi has made it very clear that they will continue their action pending what the Supreme Court has to say. So it's really now dependent on the Supreme Court what happens in Jahangirpuri.
Yes, we do hope that the Supreme Court will ask all parties to put in their say. I do hope that they ask where are the demolition orders? Who is it who has signed the demolition orders? Were people given adequate notice? Were people allowed to challenge it? And I do also hope that somebody at least says that Mr. Gupta and Mr. Jha, who lost their shops out there, are not Bangladeshis or Rohingyas. I just, for the life of me, cannot understand what is being achieved by this kind of collective punishment, which is of an area that is unknown to law. Collective punishment in India was imposed by General Dyer after Jallianwala Bagh.
Yes.
It did not end well.
Well, absolutely, and I'm going to end tonight on the very note that we started. What happens to those families? No, what happens really, gentlemen, to those families today who have literally lost everything that they have built? We can go on and on talking about the law. We can go on and on talking about whether those bulldozers were legal, illegal, why, which political party has said what. But spare a thought really for those families that have today lost everything for nothing. I'm going to end the show on that note. Thank you all very much for joining us.